Okay, welcome back everyone. It's July 8th of 2015, and aren't we thankful that we didn't bail out on the Foundation of Ethics volume, because I was very discouraged at how slow it was developing, but finally I hit a 35-page essay that has validated the purchase of the book, and so we get to take a look at finally a very positive, content-filled presentation and a clarification of his position, which I think has not been reflected even in our study through epistemology. So I think it gives us a great look at his Foundation of Ethics, and it actually makes the volume worth purchasing. So it runs from 102 to 137. We're going to take a look at the conceptual ethics of the right end. The conceptual ethics of the right end. We'll begin with the concept of the true. He says that it's a judgment concerning the combination of ideas. So it's an ascription of the unity of things. It includes two types of judgments: the judgments of affirmation, the existential judgments, which affirm the existence of an object, and synthetic judgments, which are the analytic judgments of combining the signs together in a model. The infallibly true consists of the intuited abstract ideas and the apodictic rejections of impossibilities. Therefore, the true equals our existentially and analytically constructed sign model of the true. Now we need to move on and combine that with the good. So the second moment is the concept of the good. A judgment that is good is similar to an existential judgment of affirmation. The judgment of the good arises out of the realm of interperception, the mode of presentation, in other words, the psychical realm. And interperception always includes the revealing of our reward of being pleased. We always have that additional feeling, percept. It's instinctive and it is an impulse, but it is a higher emotion, says Brentano. It's the higher emotion of the pleasure of insight, the pleasure of attaining to an insight. So we end up attributing to the sign model that it is worthy of love and thereby represents virtue or the noble or the morally true. So now we have the concept of the true as a sign model, and we have the pleasure of insight as our emotive affirmation of that model. And we move on to the concept of the better. We introduce the concept of preference. It's nested in the psychical realm of the self's experience in that mode of presentation. It's the moment of reflexive knowing. We recognize the sign model as correctly preferred. And this is not considered pure subjectivity, and instead it is considered a positing of the true, an internal externality. It is our probability of universality as a model. It takes up the entire class of objects within the model, and therefore the right end is a positing of knowledge, says Brentano. We posit the universals as concepts as a conceptual sign model. From there we move on to the second part of the third moment of the better and look at the concept of the motivational base. The act of emotion as preference does constitute our motivational base. That base begins with just the general concept of knowledge, kind of a very primitive general concept of knowledge. But it does possess a character of being apodictic, of being a certainty that we carry within ourselves. Our motivational base will enclose the following. After we have looked at this triad, it will include the conceptual signs, the intuitive pleasure of insight, and by combining A and B, it will form an emotive inclination toward value. In the Greek, this is known as phronesis or phronetic stance or moral intentionality. So all I can say is that in 35 pages, this entire volume has been rescued. The triad of the true, the good, and the better is the conceptual model of Brentano's ethics. The true, the good, and the better. That triad, keep that in your head. You've got Brentano's ethics right there. That triad together will form a motivational base within our subjectivity, but it becomes an emotive, phronetic stance that we always take to the dialogue threshold. We never approach the dialogue threshold with nothing. We always have something in our possession, and we always have our motivational base, our inclination, our leaning in at the dialogue threshold, which is in the Greek phronesis, or phronetic stance, or moral intentionality. And that will combine these true signs. It will combine the pleasure of insight as the good. The signs and the insight, the pleasure of insight combined together form phronesis, or moral intentionality, that we always carry with us. We always carry this motivational base that is coupled with the sign model that we carry as a construction in our long-term memory. We do store that in our long-term memory, but if you couple that posited sign model in the long-term memory with our motivational base, which is in the unconscious, then positing becomes motivationally empowered as a sign model, and it becomes cognition with emotion combined as a persuasive positing. Much, much better positive content from Brentano. Thank goodness we got this 35-page lesson. The book is redeemed. I'm going to give it 5 stars just because I got this essay. So that will wrap up through page 137, that we have covered the beautiful triad of the true, the good, and the better.